In this episode, we talk about the importance of a showreel and a portfolio if you're a freelancer. So let's get right into it. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Zaro podcast. I'm your host, Martin Adams, and I'm joined with Tim Porter. Today, we're going to be talking about portfolios and showreels and why they're important. So, Tim, say hello.
Hello.
So, Tim, you're a motion graphics designer. So, showreel's kind of the big thing for you. If you're a web designer, UX designer, graphic designer, then portfolios are probably going to be your thing.
Yeah.
So, we kind of touched on the last episode about finding clients, and we said how important a showreel or a portfolio would be to present to them. So I've got some thoughts on this. Let's go down two routes here. One, you're looking for a job, and you want to be a designer for a company, whether that's an agency or another company. You're looking for a job, and you've got your CV, and hopefully you've got your cover letter. Surprisingly, not many people put the cover letter. What do you put in a cover letter? Look up something about the company and share how you have a similar passion to what the company's doing. It's really that simple. Make it sound like that you've not sent the same cover letter to everyone. Stand out, basically. And then you link to your portfolio of some form. Now, I've received portfolios, and I've seen them on kind of self-hosted web pages, and maybe something like a Dribble account. I've not actually had someone send me a Dribble account, but Behance and various other kind of hosted places where you'd put a portfolio. And so before we go into any more detail on what I would expect and see in there, talk about your work, Tim, in terms of, because you're a motion designer, which is like motion.
Yeah, I didn't start out that way. Yeah, I didn't start out that way. I mean, I did the wondrous world of retail after finishing university. I did a media degree, which I'm not saying degrees are very useful. Just don't do a media one, because I think in a lot of cases, maybe it's just my course, but people tend to pick media degrees because they look at them and go, oh, there's no tests. It's all coursework. It's creative, and I can get through this, and I can come away with a degree. And you will find a fair percentage of people that are just doing it to have an easy life. But in that regard, you can use that to your advantage because you put passion into your work. You're going to stand head and shoulders above the competition. So that's really good. But it's a tough industry that I'm in. I wanted to go into editing. And it's a very difficult process to get work with that. So I found in order to earn money, I thought, well, I need to get a job. So I went back to my glorious job at Cineworld, which was fun. I don't recall having a cover letter, but I did. We went to school with the manager, if you remember.
Yes,
you remember?
Yeah. Tim and I went to school together.
And it was fun and it was enjoyable. And actually, it was interesting that there was a lot of creative people there that were it's sort of a stopgap for them. And it was a way to see free films and sort of study in a strange way. I went from there, then went to another retail job. But it was through the course of just doing work off of my own back, and just, we were doing short films and things like that, and still had a passion in. And then that resulted in a job opportunity in Ireland, which again was through a mutual friend of ours. And I was in a situation where I was editing TV ads. That over the years shifted into more graphics-based work, and then I got a real passion for that. And then I thought to myself, well, I could do this freelance. I mean, I'm sort of in a roundabout way doing it freelance for this company, because it wasn't, it was done payment was done in a freelance way. So I thought, well, it's no different, and things were fizzling out there. So it was the opportunity to come back to the UK and set up base and things like that. And again, I learned sort of the hard way of, clients don't, appear at your feet. It does require a lot of work, mainly in showreel. You need a single place, a single video, a website, anything like that to showcase your work. It needs to be the best. You need to be modest about your own, skill set.
I think that's it. the showreel or the portfolio, if you're not doing video, you're doing, say, graphic design or web design. It's your advert, and
Yeah, absolutely.
it's you're right. It can't be everywhere. You can't have a bit on Instagram and a bit on your website and a bit on Dribble. It's got to be in one place because you've got to have that's your pitch, and that's
absolutely
what you're selling. And I think what you're selling is you.
Especially with show reels, because I mean, as I was going through, and I look, my first show reel was way too long. I thought I'll include everything in the kitchen sink because I just want them to see all of my work, because they might see something that I don't. But you then realise that people only stick around. Potential clients will only stick around and watch first 10, 20 seconds of it, and you've got to hook them in that space of time for them to watch the rest. So it really has to be your best, and you need to have an understanding of what your best work is, and that means looking at the competition and not being scared off by it, or don't be defensive about if somebody says this work is no good. If they've got a legitimate reason, then take it on board. If you don't have that, if you come away putting together an animation, or you're putting together a design or anything like that, and you think I'm the best, you're never the best. There's always somebody better than you. But be inspired by the person that's better than you. That's sort of that really. I will say with regards to what you were saying with cover letters, definitely, my experience of them was I don't even recall writing a cover letter for anything that was a media-based job, because it really was about sort of showreel and portfolio. Yeah. I did cover letters when it was the retail jobs and things like that down the line, and they weren't passionate. They were a copy paste. And the reason for that was that it was I didn't really know what to say, because it was a job that I didn't want to do.
Yeah.
So that's the funny thing. Even if you're in a situation where you're not quite sure what you want to do, I tell you, if you've got passion to do a cover letter, and you really are, I love this company, it's fantastic. Then you're fine. That's a job you want.
Do you know what it is? Right. The cover letter for me it does two things. Like, CVs all look the same, especially if you receive a CV from an agency. They deliberately make them generic because they hate The reason is only so that they can edit a Word document and remove the contact details because they want their commission. It's really that simple. So if you go and put a really creative CV together, which I completely encourage, it should be like nothing that's ever been seen before.
Absolutely. I mean, when I was working at the studio in Ireland, we were in a situation where we had people applying for jobs there. And it was myself and our mutual friend John we were going through hundreds of CVs, and the way we would route them out, because there were so many, spelling would be number one, spelling and grammar. If there was a mistake, then they instantly go out, because if they and that's, it may seem harsh, because there could be somebody truly creative in there and they just have made an honest mistake, or they were rushed because they'd only just heard about this job. But ultimately, if they it gives you an idea of them taking the time and consideration to proofread, take real care over the representation of themselves.
It's a little more subtle than that. You're right, because I totally know that. There's an analogy I'll come to in a moment, but or story. But when you receive something like a CV, immediately your brain decides whether if it's intriguing and interesting, or whether it's work and boring. And especially when you get like 6, 7, 8 CVs, and 90% of them are just there to waste your time because people are just trying their luck, right? And they haven't even read the job description because they have nothing that kind of matches it. So immediately you know that you're going to get a lot of waste coming in. So when you look at a CV for the first time, if it doesn't intrigue you, and it looks like the stuff that you've just thrown out because it's just a complete waste of time in terms of not being anything for the job, you're in a defensive mode. And what you're trying to do is, I need to get rid of this CV as quick as possible, because I've got a confirmation bias that it's going to be another time wasted CV.
Yeah.
So So you look for visual clues. I don't read an entire CV. I look for visual clues. I look for the keywords, whether it relates to. I look for whether they've just spoken an awful lot about something that really I don't care about. And if that, like, if they take up a paragraph talking about something that's quite that like anybody in any job would have been expected to do that exact thing.
Yes.
Then I'm like, maybe that's the depth of what you're capable of. So when you say you're looking for spelling mistakes to discard it, what you're doing is you're looking for confirmation that you've made the right initial assessment. Now,
absolutely.
Guarantee, send me 100 CVs, and I reckon 99% of the time they'll all be black text, maybe grey text on a white sheet of paper. Okay,
yes,
that's the standard way of writing a CV. It's what we're taught in school and that. Now, be the person who has to review 100 CVs, and you think, how the hell do you stand out from that, right?
Yeah.
But I'll tell you something. Imagine you've got 100 CVs, you've laid them all out, and one of them is just bright red. Which one piques your interest?
Absolutely. This was something we did see that with a few of the CVs that were coming through, is that if it was on coloured paper, it stands out from a sea of white paper, and you do gravitate towards it. I would say that things have progressed quite a bit in terms of CVs, especially if you're going for design. My inclination would be if you're doing design, for example, you're going to know Photoshop, so integrate that into the CV 100%, design. 100%. And because what you're doing is visual, why not showcase some stills of your work? Just a small section. I would also, for any job, keep it to a single page, because nobody has the time. If it is to go through and whittle through 3 pages of, my old CV used to be 3 pages. I'm pretty confident that none of them got past the first page.
They say 2 pages, but actually I completely agree. 1 page. Say
if you're sending in a CV, it's the hook. It's to get people. It's to get the client to the point of going, I want to see this person and I want to meet with them. Then you discuss the rest. If you're putting it all down on paper in any case and you're nervous in interviews, you've got nothing to talk about. But if you're putting something down to bring intrigue, then actually you set yourself up for an easier interview down the line, because they're going to ask, so tell me about this. And then you just talk about that.
Yeah, and I linking it back, I think the CV needs to link to a portfolio.
Yes, 100%.
Because intrigue is enough, but again, it has to confirm enough of my match criteria to tick these boxes. It could be really intriguing. Like, for example, I could be looking for a front-end developer job, but this person is a great copywriter, but he's applying for... in that case, I probably wouldn't put them through to an interview, no matter how good that CV is. But then if I click the link and I saw that, okay, they're talking about this copyright stuff, but they built all the themes and actually, there's more to it. Absolutely. But so I think a CV should always link, and this is a tough one because the recruitment agencies, will not like this because it's a way to cut you out the loop. Yeah. Maybe you should be applying directly to these companies, not through a recruitment agency, because you don't want them to screw up your chance of getting the job, and they can do that because they've got their own agenda. So that link to your portfolio, it should be really, for me, a portfolio should reaffirm what I've just seen on the CV. That what you've said on the CV is matched in what your portfolio has, and it should be well designed. Now, if you're not a web designer and you're doing something else, use a Squarespace, or use someone else, don't you?
I've got a Squarespace site, and I use Dunked. To be honest, it's this is probably what you're leading into, is the fact that, well, in my case, and I did sort of battle with myself for a good portion of time and going, I need the site to look absolutely amazing, and then it ended up being overdeveloped as a thing, and then I ended up thinking to myself, I'm not pushing for web design work, and more to the point, even if I would be linking to the sites where I'm showcase my best work. You can get lost in that. I just think any portfolio website needs to be clean, efficient, single page. I always think are great, because I mean, granted, you maybe separate page for contact and things like that, but ultimately people need to go onto your website and see your work displayed
onto your website. See, I shouldn't have to go onto your website and try and find your work. Absolutely not.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it should be a click away. You should be able to see the work, see the showreel, see whatever, and just click, and then you're in.
There's another thing that kind of it's a bit of a bugbear of mine when looking at people's portfolios. Well, first of all, like sometimes the links just don't work. I mean, oh my goodness, if you're going to put it in your portfolio, make sure the links work, make sure the images load, make sure everything's just like, it's got to work, because if I'm hiring you to do this, it's got to work for me if I'm hiring you. So it's got to work for yourself, because like it's basic 101, right? But I find sometimes you see something that's quite impressive, but it doesn't match your understanding or expectations based on what you've just read in the CV, maybe a bit of who they've worked with in the past. You think, hang on a minute, that looks way above the quality of what I was anticipating. And often that could be because maybe in a previous job there could have been some collaboration and they contribute to the project. But the bit that I struggle with is knowing whether this piece of work, like how much involvement did this person have in this piece of work, and are they trying to mislead by making it seem like they can do more than they can do. I've seen examples where they link to kind of known websites. Like, hang on a minute, that doesn't make, like, you're applying for a job for me, and you've worked with these kind of big brands. How do you end up here, right? Surely you should be. So I love to see a breakdown of the process, like your involvement. So for each piece of work, like you say, like you sell it on the single page, but you have a way to just provide more content around that. For me, this would be really helpful. Maybe show some concept work, why you did the project, particularly if you're, say, a young or new freelancer or straight out of uni or something like that, where you may not have had the commercial work. But you've done maybe the daily design challenges, or you've done uni work. Pick the best pieces, ones that you are completely like top of your game. If it's not top of your game, consider cutting it out, because it will lower the bar. And it's okay to do fictional projects. It don't have to be.
Well, this is it. I would more than encourage it, because still to this day, and I've been freelancing for over 10 years, my showreel is made up majority of personal, and the reason is that a lot of the client work is restrictive.
Yeah, that's true.
They have set brand guidelines to hit. They're maybe not as daring as your creative vision is, and yeah, I mean you have far more passion in your own ideas that haven't been whittled down by a committee. But in that same regard, when clients see the showreel, they will often look at the personal pieces and go, "Oh, that's awesome! Can we do something like that?" So it's 100% worth it. I mean, unless you're lucky enough to work. I mean, you could luck out and say. I tend to think you have less of an issue if you're in like the visual effects industry, because that's more focus. If you're working on features or something like that, then it's very creative and it's connected to the story and things like that. Then I think you have less of a problem on that. But still, I think it might not be. You might just want to create something that's really cool, and then you want to show it.
Absolutely. And I think one thing that I'd love to see is someone who's applying for work who knows exactly how to sell. In other words, like if I were to say, let's apply the user experience kind of treatment to creating a portfolio. The first thing you start with, well, who is it that you want to engage with this portfolio? And it's someone who's going to hire you.
Yes.
And then you think, well, okay, now let's dig into that. What kind of company is going to hire me? They could be a e-commerce. They could be a social media agency. They could be corporate.
Yes.
Nail that down. And if you don't want to settle yourself down to individual ones, like if you're doing a showreel, I'd basically just sell and spell it out here's what I can do for corporate. Here's what I can do for social media. Like, tell that story so that what people know that you're talking to them, that the work they're producing is good for you, and basically remove as many kind of ambiguity and questions as you can.
Yeah.
I think that would be kind of really nifty.
Yeah, I mean, I've not done it myself, but I've plenty of people I know have separate show reels depending on the sort of client base that they're trying to hit for, and then that way they've got just quick, like 30-second teaser, or is there almost like teaser trailers for
Absolutely.
each?
Yeah, exactly.
The sections, and that can work very well. I mean, a rule of thumb is to keep it short and sweet throughout, and as you say, like the best of the best, and whatever you're ultimately passionate about, it's going to breed your best. You know, it's going to, So,
and there's an analogy that I like. Oh, I was going to say this other analogy about CVs. I'll go back to that. So it's a story. I don't know where it's. I think it's probably made up. There's a company. They get a stack of CVs, and the assistant's like, we've got to go through these CVs. There's way too many. It's going to take forever. So the manager or the boss says, okay, what I want you to do is split into two piles. Piles. Take one of the piles and put it in the bin. And the assistant's like, you can't do that.
Yeah.
That's just really unlucky for those people. And the boss goes, we don't hire unlucky people. I love that story. It's
I have a, well, I don't know if it's similar, but it's a sort of CV story. And again, it was an American company, and stack of CVs, and it's the boss really can't choose, and it's becoming laborious and trying to hire somebody. Person comes in requesting for the boss, walks in, this quite arrogant, or he's not being polite. He doesn't even speak to the boss. He just walks into the guy's office, places down a baseball, which I believe was signed by a baseball player of some sort. But then on the flip side of it, it had his details, basically name, what he does, contact number, places it on the desk, and then walks out. But the guy is, even though he goes, that's quite rude and weird, but he had researched that the boss was a massive fan of baseball and was also a fan of that player. I also believe that I don't know if whatever he'd written, it was washable ink, so the guy could quite happily take that off if he wanted to, and he ended up with a signed baseball. So he was very pleased at the nice present from the random person, but that guy was the guy that got hired.
Yeah.
Pure, and that's pure out of the box thinking. Going, everybody's supplying their CV on paper. I'm going to do it in the weirdest, strangest way. But in that regard, he still researched into what the boss's likes, and that was an avenue. So there's a connection point, even though it was rather strange in the way he did it.
Yeah. It's like viral marketing,
that's true.
It?
Yeah, that's true of any interview. I mean, if you have a conversation. I never understand people that are going into an interview with cue cards. I mean, your cue card is your own CV.
It's like what we talk about. Fall in love with what the person interviewing you falls in love with, and just chat about that, and they'll soon realise that you're the right person for the job. And just going back to the portfolio itself, there's something I wanted to talk about, like what work you put into your portfolio, and be critical. Don't we all love our children, right? But you've got to cull the herd. That sounds really bad.
We're not talking about CVs anymore.
A couple of really good pieces of work, and if you don't have pieces of work that you're not proud of, go create it. I mean, seriously, this is a topic for another day. Go create the portfolio that will sell you in the best way. But it's like saying, like, if you've got lots of pieces of work and say 3 or 4 are good, and then there's one that's a bit questionable, and then maybe the next one's good in that, it's the questionable one that's going to bring you down. It's going to stick out. It's going to be the thing you remember, and you're going to think, why was it there? And it's the equivalent of someone saying, I never swear, right? I never swear. I'm really polite, never swear. But there's that one time where they just mouthed off and swore like mad, and it's like you can't half not swear. You're either someone who does or doesn't, right? And it's like saying, "Oh, I don't drink drive except that one time." No, that's drink driving, right? Like so I'm really really good except that one time. Take out that one time, right? You're just good consistently. Don't even bring it into a question. And I think it comes from, especially for newcomers to the market, not having enough work. And maybe including work through university where you're just learning the craft rather than deploying the skill. It's the difference.
Yeah.
I've just learned this for the first time, so it's in my portfolio. No, what you need to do is go over it, learn the skill, and then do it a few times.
100%. The amount of times for showreels, for animation, or I suppose in visual effects as well, you would see the same visual effect because you know it because it's an Andrew Kramer.
I was going to say Andrew Kramer.
Where it's I've seen that explosion before, or it's from his set or whatever, or look, it's the Iron Man HUD of effects and things like that. It's just blatant copying. You're learning a skill, granted, but you have to utilize just the skill part of it and create something entirely unique. I say entirely unique. Be inspired by other people. This is the reason. I have a Dribble account, and I still go back to that. I find at the moment Instagram is fantastic for if you want to find inspiration for designers or whatever you want to do. And it's got the very useful bookmarking. That's half what I do on Instagram is just adding things out just so I've got these design styles saved. And it's never for the intent of looking at one and going, I'm going to copy that. No, you take from multiple sources to be inspired, so it's the color from one, it's the shape from another. And by the time you start separating out the pieces, the way you're putting them together is an entirely new way, and that's you. But you need to do it in that way because otherwise you're just going to have showreel portfolio or anything like that where it's work that people have seen 100 times over, and you're not showcasing a unique quality.
It's like music. A cover band can take someone else's work and learn how to reproduce it really well, but that's not what's going to bring them to the next level of being their own band. They'll just be a cover band, but they can use that skill to create their own original pieces. And it's the same with design. That's it.
Yeah, I don't know why that made me think of the cover bands will they'll only get so far, but take somebody like Weird Al, and he does cover songs, but he completely twists them and does comedy. That was his. He found his own voice through that, and he's just having fun with it. And what fun career to have, and to make a success of it, But Absolutely. it was that unique idea at the time. That put him forward, and that's why he's so well known. So there's everybody listening to this going, "Who's Weird Al?"
So okay, cool. I think I'd love to do at some point. I'd love to do actually take some showreels and critique them.
That'd be awesome.
And portfolios, and actually going to a bit more tangible. But just to recap, I think we'll kind of.
Are you going to critique mine?
Yeah, I'll critique yours.
I'd love it. I'd like a harsh critique on it because I'll eventually do it.
Why not? We'll do that. We'll schedule that in. So okay. So to recap, you're looking for work. How do you stand out? Where does your showreel? So start with your CV, make it stand out, make it pop. If you're a designer, design it. Fall in love with the companies that you're applying to, research them, put them in the cover letter, show that you actually care. Link to your portfolio. Your portfolio has to be boom, hit. Sell yourself. If you're doing video, make sure that it's short. Another thing is make sure that it works without headphones because some people just play it on their laptop, especially if they've got someone else watching as well. So get your audio balance, test all that out. Break it down. Actually sell kind of like what you can really do, your best pieces of work, maybe target that to different types of clients, and then if you're like a designer, not video, pick in all cases, pick the best pieces of work, Get rid of the ones that are just subpar. And if you haven't got enough work to do, go create fictional projects. Break it down to say why you chose this project, what challenges you foresee, how you've overcome it, and the final product. And just, while you're there, not working or got any spare time, go create, skill up, put it into your portfolio.
That's very important, because I mean if you have the ability to create your own unique work, set yourself a deadline and a schedule and be able to do that, then actually you're on a very good footing to be able to self-motivate for freelance work as well. So you are in a way adding a skill just by having fun and being creative. So yeah.
Brilliant. Okay, well, we'll end it there. Thank you very much, Tim. So next episode, I don't know, what should we talk about next time? I kind of like this theme of freelance showreels. Maybe we'll dig into some critiquing of a showreel. It'd be a bit hard to do on the podcast, but good for YouTube if we're going to. Yeah,
I'm sure we can figure out a way. Your fail-safe is Kickstarter, because I can talk in spades about the wonders and the curse of it.
Yes.
And if you want to kickstart your own project, I can throw my 2 cents in that. So.
Yeah. So for those listening, Tim has run a successful Kickstarter doing a project called Storm Deck, which is design inspiration cards. So you're in a client meeting and you use these cards to get your kind of design style understood. They're pretty cool.
Thank you. I think I still have a deck around, because I did sell out and I haven't bought any stock in for a while, so I can probably show them on camera. So
yeah, I've got mine somewhere. So
okay, that's cool. So that's fine. Yours probably better, Nick, because my one I just kept in my coat pocket for far too long, so it's been dented and things like that.
So basically, you went through the whole thing from creating the campaign, creating the product, pitching. Like that's the hard part, isn't it? Pitching to get the
I'll go in detail. Yeah.
So we'll bring that into a future episode, talking about doing a Kickstarter.
Nice.
So, until next time, thank you very much.
Take care.
Hey, we did talk about Zaro.
Sponsored by Zaro.
Sponsored by Zaro, the startup we're building. Zaro.io.
This is just like Lord of the Rings. Like Return of the King. There's like 17 endings.
17 endings. That's true. Okay, well let's stop it there then. Okay.
Yeah,
thank you.
Buy Zaro. Consume Zaro.
It's not launched yet.
Zaro?
Okay. Bye. Bye.
Okay. Who are we sponsored by?
Zaro.
No,